back to the stage now. And today, now at this panel, I have an interesting set of panelists talking about an interesting topic of how it's always day one for a founder. So whether it's the starting stage or the scale-up stage, a founder always have to be on the top of things. That's what Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs always says. And today, our panelists are further going to discuss how it's being displayed in their lives. So I'll first give the mic to each one of them to quickly share a little brief about each one of them, and then we'll get into the questionnaire mode. So Paavan, I'll first start with you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much, Entrepreneur India, for having me here, providing the opportunity to be a part of this esteemed panel. I am Paavan Nanda, co-founder of WinZo Games. We are India's largest social gaming platform based out of New Delhi and now live in India, Brazil, and few other countries. I'm a second-time entrepreneur. Before this, I also started this company called Zostel, which is currently Asia's largest chain of backpacker hostels, and also a branded budget hotel aggregator business called Zorooms in my previous venture. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Thakur Amardeep Singh. I'm co-founder for Cement, which started in 2022 with their own cryptocurrency. We are already a listed token in the exchange. We are into Web3 product development, which includes we have targeted health industry, and now we are also into.
Okay, it's not deep. It's not working. You can use mine.
We are into a skill-based fantasy game, which is based on Web3. Which is Sportsment. We are in process of developing our own exchange. We are also introducing blockchain-based services to our clients, because we are into an industry which is highly in demand, and which is the future for any sector to be involved as far as blockchain and Web3 is concerned. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karan Mola. I'm a partner of a fund called B Capital. I help lead our investments across India and Southeast Asia. I've been in venture investments for about 15 years. Previously was a partner at Chirate Ventures from the time it started. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elly. I'm from GearLaunch. My job is to find GearLaunch is one-stop solutions for print-on-demand business, which is growing rapidly in past few years. So in here today, my second time to India is very excited, and it's a pleasure to be here today. And I'm glad that I have an opportunity to share with you guys and everyone about print-on-demand and how grow globally from India.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shruti Gat. I'm a founder of Recla International's Private Limited. So we are basically into steel construction. So any kind of steel structures, that is like factory, warehouses, or multi-story commercial buildings, aircraft hangars, or these kind of projects we do. So I'm here to share the experiences I've had in building a organization which is perceived as a male-dominated one. I would be happy to share the experiences at this prestigious platform. Thank you, Punita.
Thank you. So it's an interesting set of panelists wherein we have founders, we have investors, plus we also have some entrepreneurs. So I'll first come to you, Karan, because you worked with so many founders. And when you work with them from a startup to scale-up stage, what kind of changes do you witness in the founders typically when they have to change their mindset in terms of how they would deal with culture, how they would deal with people?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think that's a great question. So there's probably 2-3 parts to it. I think one is Most of the times that I end up interacting with founders, it's typically at, when they're looking to raise their first institutional round or maybe second institutional round, so seed or Series A typically. And I think the first part is just around how they think about the team that they have, the team that they need to build, and the team that they need to supplement. When you're starting up initially, and I think most founders will relate to this, the first set of people you have, besides just your co-founders, are people that you know and trust or ideally have worked with before. I think as you scale up, you need to try and get people who are more and more specialists at their job, who either bring in a lot of domain expertise or functional expertise, and that's how you just add the professional layer to your team management. So that's one part of it. I think the second is how you think about growing your business. So typically when you start, you have a fairly hacky approach to building things, trying things, iterating on it. As you start building and you start scaling, then you need to think about systems that are able to support you for longer periods of growth. And so just the growth mindset does change, and you realize what gets you there from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100 is different, right? So you think about these things very actively. And the third part, I think, is just maybe around how founders think about what type of investors and what type of capital they need. And the ability for founders to be able to understand what type of investor or investors will be the right partners for them in the particular part of their journey becomes important, because I think if you choose an investor which is probably not the right fit for you, either from a value standpoint or they don't understand the industry that you're in, or just the values are very different, that makes it a very difficult journey for you, because the founder and investor journey is typically long term. It's very hard to get out of it. So I think if I have to put it down to three things, these are probably the three more important things that I actively encourage founders to really think about, because ultimately these have a very direct bearing on not just the efforts that they're putting in, but compounding efforts into what helps their startup actually grow.
Sure. Paavan, coming to you, this is your second venture, so I'm sure you must have a lot of learnings in place while starting and scaling the second venture. So why don't you share some of them with us?
Sure. So I'll probably, I think learnings will be too heavy a word, but I'll still share what has been the realizations, at least so far, from the mistakes that we've committed. So like I mentioned, my first venture was Zostel and Zorooms. We ran that for about 2.5 odd years. Started it in campus. So like I was about 26 when I started that. Second year of B school. Have like no experience of doing business in the family or working with any other startup. And when we scaled it towards end of 2.5 years, having two brands, the hostel business and the hotel business, after 2.5 years, we had to shut almost 50% of the business and sell the remaining 50% of the business in the form of a slump sale or an acquisition that was not on appreciating terms. In fact, that acquisition also a couple of months or quarters later went into a dispute, into an arbitration, which we eventually won. So as you can imagine, there must be a massive roller coaster in shutting things, selling things, and those things also landing into this dispute. But I'll say, predominantly 3 key realizations or pitfalls or mistakes that we did in our first venture was in no particular order per se. But first one was I think sometimes people get a little too obsessed with what competition is doing. It's important to stay inward. It's important to stick to your course. I think connecting to the customers, staying obsessed with the customers was very important. I think we went to a point, especially in the budget hotels aggregator business, where it was a fiercely competitive category. There were at least 4 or 5 very deeply funded players. We were the second largest in the market. And the largest one was, like, of course, more aggressive, throwing more capital. And we reached a point where the entire organization was always sort of, comparing our features versus theirs, our offering versus theirs, our pricing versus them. that just like you're beating, somebody's beating you to your own game. And I think nothing really good or great will come out of that kind of a culture. So you need to be more obsessed with your customers rather than competition. On the other side, when we talk about Zostel as a business, which was something that we started off, we were the biggest from the beginning. We were absolutely obsessed with customers. We used to like ourselves sit on the reception desk of those hostels, used to do all kinds of odd jobs, interact with customers, and could really have an offering, which is so remarkable that today, while we have all moved out, most of the founders have moved out of the venture, it is still, I think, definitely still growing every year. And, it is Asia's largest, like I said, right? Second thing that we feel was an important realization is that there is no shortcut to success, right? And I want to put this in perspective wherein, let's say suddenly you get a massive equity round, you get a lot of capital in your account, from investment or any other reasons, or let's say very early in the day you get you get a great offer or something that you feel is a mess, where the kind of efforts you've made are not talking to the kind of outcome which is is in front of you. I would say the learning has been that most of the times those kind of opportunities are kind of have to be taken with a pinch of salt and not really dive into it. Why I'm saying this is because, of course, within 2 years when we got an opportunity to sell our business, the terms were decent. Each one of us could have been a millionaire. But then the kind of terms to those acquisition and the way it eventually panned out made us realize that what were we even thinking, right? And I think the third thing is essentially the culture. Culture is the king. When you're building a startup, culture is the king. The topic of today's discussion is it's always day zero in a startup. I believe that's, if I'm correct, right? I think time is a very, very beautiful and a very subjective matter, right? I mean, you can do the same kind of work in 30 days. You can do the same kind of output in 10 days. Like I'm sure all the folks who've prepared for examination the last day will vouch for it. And I think as an entrepreneur, you need to always have these two sort of time, clocks or watches you need to wear in either of your hand. On one side, you need to be extremely patient. You should not talk about in terms of months, years. I mean, look at it as a decade. Ideally, if you're picking a space, pick it as a, the next decade. Like when we started off WinZo back in 2018, we thought, okay, gaming is going to be very big. Everybody will have smartphones. Let's talk about next 2 decades. What can be achieved there, right? So then with that kind of mindset, your perseverance increases. You are really obsessed about your customer. You really don't fret too much about, let's say, some regulatory changes or some funding not happening, or let's say some senior employee exiting, right? All those things from a perspective standpoint seems quite low when you're looking at that kind of time frame. But on the other side, you need to wear a watch which has an extremely high sense of urgency. Especially, I'm addressing entrepreneurs, I'm addressing founders. I think if the top of the organization demonstrate a very healthy sense of urgency, you will see a massive increase in efficiency. I mean, just the mode, everybody will still continue to do that way, but sometimes that healthy sense of urgency can totally amp up the efficiency. And I think so that is how an entrepreneur has to look at from a time perspective. And the last thing I would say, at least from, while building WinZo is, when I said we are looking at for a decade, 2 decades, sometimes some of the things that an entrepreneur's, the time frame gets cut short could be because of runway, right? I mean, there's only so much you can finance, there's only so much equity you can get, and there's a certain degree of pressure, right? If you're not profitable. So optimize to just turn profitable, as soon as you can. Take some of those decisions, because it's truly liberating. I mean, WinZo turned profitable 1.5, 2 years back, and I can tell you, I mean, the frame suddenly changes, right? Now you look at, okay, what all I can do over the next 20 years, right? There's no talk about a runway because now our flight has taken off. So that's a very, I would say, refreshing and a very supercharging experience. And you don't need to, of course, you can continue to redeploy all the profits back into, growth mode. You can continue to burn. You don't need to accumulate cash. That's not what I'm talking about. We are all growing startups here. But still, I think optimizing for profitability, not relying too much on just the runways, having a very long-term horizon with an original thought process and a strong sense of urgency. I think these are some of the mantras, so to say, that I abide by. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paavan. So, Amardeep, I come to you, and because your startup is pretty different from the usual tech startup which we see, and so do you think it's quite difficult to be a crypto founder in India?
Yes, because being a crypto founder, this is really a very challenging industry as of now. The most uncertainty is the regulation. Everybody talks about it. People still think that it's a grey industry, but the regulations are not in place as of now. When these regulations will be in place and in what form they are going to come for this industry, nobody knows about it. The timing, we cannot say what time these regulations will come into force. But the adaptability, if you see, today more than 15% of the Indian population has already invested in crypto, which is a huge number compared to any other country. We are almost third in numbers in the world who are into crypto investment. Any kind of crypto we are holding today in our wallets. Crypto, being a founder in crypto, it is always challenging because every day a new idea is emerging in the market. Web3 is a new space for startups. It gives opportunity to bring into your idea into a tokenization system, because crypto mostly is associated with the tokenization of your concept. You tokenize your concept through your own either cryptocurrency, or you are making use of any blockchain or any other technologies using different cryptos to tokenize your idea as a business. It's not that we are not going to be successful in this. You have to be very focused here. You have to be very focused in terms of the latest technology. When I talk about, the topic was that startup versus this scaling.
Scale up, yeah.
But I term it as scaling versus startup was a topic. But I rephrase it that it should be like startup versus scaling, because startup is the baby phase. The baby phase where you start with a new idea to get into the market which fit your product to capture the market. You try to experiment, you take more risk. Again, but the resources are very constrained. People are not behind you. People are not willing to participate with you. Scaling comes only when you pass through that first phase of your startup. Startup always is a phase where you are ready to risk, where you are ready to experiment, where you are ready to innovate yourself to come out with a product which is more fit into already existing industry. It's not that we are into an industry which is already established. As a startup, and particularly in crypto, there are more challenges. The challenges of technology is there, because the technology is changing so fast. Every few months, a new technology, a new concept of people are coming forward, and they are coming with a new idea, which is totally changing the scenario of the total system. So you have to be always on your toes, you have to be always well aware of what the things happening globally, because when I talk about crypto technology, blockchain or something like that, this is not related or constrained to one country. We are not, we can't say we do this in India. It's a global concept. You have competition globally here. You're not facing only the competitors in India, but yes, we are interacting with people across the world. This is the biggest challenge. So startup is the first phase where you can take risk with minimum constraint of your resources, as well as when you reach that stage where I started in 22, and when we launched our token, it was very humble start. We launched the token, we called it ICO, which is called initial coin offering, at the rate of around 0.054 cent. And the 3 years what we have gone through, today my token is already listed in the exchange, which is now, the current rate is around 52 cents. It's not that I'm saying that we have done very great in this business. We have gradually grown up. In crypto industry, mostly in India, the growth is not organic. If you have learned, if you have studied crypto tokens or cryptocurrencies in India, these are all AI-based growth you can see on the platforms where you use bots and everything to make people feel that you have a big community. Because as of now, since there are no regulations, the most fundamental thing for any crypto product is the community behind it. The biggest community you are having in a crypto industry with a project, the more sustainability is there for the particular project. The growth of that particular currency, whatever is associated with that product, it has got a future, has got a very good value for it. And you can give a good return to your investors who have believed in you without regulations. This is what I faced, and I think it's very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about the growth of my company. We are looking at more than 10 lakh community in next 100 days. We already have a community of more than 25,000 people on board. We are in different innovative products, like we are in health sector, where we have a product called StepMint, which is move to earn concept, where people are not only indirectly making health, but also making wealth out of it. We are also into skill-based fantasy game again, which is, we are targeting the sports industry. We are coming up with our own exchange, which is going to be launched very soon. We have a very interesting product called our own blockchain. A blockchain is a technology which is not very easy for a layman to build, because it involves a lot of cost, a lot of manpower is involved in that. Our company, Mr. Mint, is coming with a blockchain which will give services on the blockchain. That means if you have idea on which you want to develop a blockchain, you just have to come on the platform and you have to give your ideas. These are my requirements, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. In a few seconds, it will give you a tailor-made blockchain for you. And it's going to be very huge market for this industry. And this is my experience. Of course, for me also, crypto is a first business. I was into investment consultancy before. But yes, this is very interesting. And the future is there for this industry. And I welcome everybody to be a part of Web3, which is definitely going to change life for anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thakur. Elly, coming to you. Can you share how GearLaunch is supporting entrepreneurship in India, and what are your plans for the Indian market?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. These are great questions. So before I'm answering your questions, I just want to ask the audience one quick question, double questions. Have any one of you heard about print on demands? Can you raise your hand if you heard of print on demands? How about drop shippings? Great. So the great opportunity for me here. At least I can turn 1,000 lead into the customer. So just some of them may know drop shippings. Print on demands is basically the same. To quick answers, print on demand is just like you turn your creative ideas into product, and we ship and we sell the product to custom online, worldwide customer. You have no boundaries and no limitations where would you sell it. We're talking about US customer, Europe, and worldwide customer. So it's a game changer for entrepreneurs. Start from whoever you are, whatever you are, you can easily start with no barriers to start a business online with GearLaunch. So that is basically what is print on demand up. So back to Indians, to answer your questions. To us, Indians is the fastest and the biggest market in the world today. With for the e-commerce sector itself for Indian is 75 billions in 2022, and I expect it to grow to 200 billions in 2026. At the same time, we are seeing a big growth in number of users using online. Exactly right now, we are seeing about 700 millions of users online in India, and projected to grow by 900 millions in 2025. So those numbers combined together, we see a huge market. It's huge potentials for us to enter the Indians. When we enter Indians market, GearLaunch position as one-stop solutions for print on demand, where we offer a platform. You can turn your design, your idea into the product. And you sell it, we ship, and we support the customer. So you can do all of this together without worrying about inventory and shippings. We not need to work. We offer 2,000 over product. You can imagine whatever you think can be print out, we can do it as well. So it's from T-shirts to the mark and the bottles, whatever is it. So the good thing is that our goal is very simple. Our goal is to become a leading platform for Indian to sell worldwide. We're talking about US market, Europe market, and bring the globals, helping the Indian sellers to sell globally, to earn and to take a profits globally beyond the Indian's border. And to expand how to can do it in India, there's a few things we need to do. First, we are GearLaunch setting up office, the local team in India. We also working with different communications group, and also working with school, universities, and organizations to make it happen. We also provide trainings, educations. We believe in educations. Without education, you cannot start nowhere. So we build training courses, live streamings, webinars, provide educations to people to understand what is a print on demand of, how it works, what is the inside market of international market, how is US people celebrating, and how you can sell it, understanding of those people in other countries, understand the cultures, like when I come to India, I understand about the cultures. At least today I know, oh, Indian having lunch from 1 to 3 p.m., right? Where I live, I have lunch at 11 to 1. So that belong to culture. So we provide a lot of cultures and education pieces for people to understand about print on demand and grow the business together. Those is few pieces we put together, and that's a key message that we become and want to become the leadings in the print on demand market in India. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Shruti, coming to you, your venture is, very typical in the sense that you run a steel manufacturing company. So when you thought about scaling up the business, what kind of challenges you faced, and how was your journey like from startup to scale up?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Punita. So steel, though it is perceived as a difficult business, I feel I have seen many startups growing, and I have witnessed no startup is an easy startup. And every founder is mostly a change maker. As we know, startup is the biggest force behind the world's economy, and founders are the base to that. So the more agile they become, the more relevant they stay to the real conditions and the situations, I think the startup becomes fundamentally strong. And the more you become strong at your foundations, I think it is easy for you to scale up. So the main 2-3 points I'll just try to explain, that those can be a very very good force behind scaling your startup. First is stay consistent. No matter what happens, I'm sure many of you who all are sitting here are entrepreneurs, who are the founders. So every day is a difficult day in our lives, and no matter what it happens, if you stay relevant, stay consistent to whatever you wish to make to, so things eventually gets happening. So you don't really have to look into something that I want something XYZ to happen, and then only I can measure my growth. There's no parameter like that. You have to keep hustling, keep growing. I think that is the important key. The second thing is knowing your why. Why am I doing this? So even if you're entering something as a very difficult startup, very difficult business, or may it be anything which is easy but having a lot of competitors around, then also this point becomes a very important point, knowing that why you're building this. Knowing your why and imbibing the reason, your vision into your team, and also within your customers, vendors, suppliers who all are working with you is very, very important. Because the force you are running with, you probably get not people who will be running with the same force. Then also you can face the difficulties while scaling up. Like being relevant to the question, building a startup to a few customers, generating some revenue is okay, limited to you. But then after, it is your team which plays a very, very vital role. So I think they should also get aligned to a vision and work as hard as you. Probably not as you, but somewhat closer. Believe me, it's the most difficult thing, aligning team to your vision and getting the work done. But the more you try to get it done, the more you master it, the more your scalability is going to get there. And along with these two important points, I think what change you want to create, being revolutionary in it rather than copying something is also important. Therein where customers get attracted towards you. We have to sell solutions and not only the products. I think the understanding the pain point of our customers, understanding the pain points of the market where we are catering to is important. Then building a relevant product as well as the services is also the important thing. Therein where I think people get attracted towards your business, towards your services, and then they can start believing in you. After a while, you have a certain set of customers who can vouch for you in the market, who can speak for you in the market. There the scalability starts, is what I believe. I hope that helps.
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely. So before I throw open the floor for questions, Karan, I have a question for you here. Since you've worked with so many startup founders, I mean, what's that one common mistake which they make while from going from a startup to scale-up stage?
I think I'll just give a quick call out to what Paavan said on focusing on competition. I think that's something which not just founders, but to be honest, I think a lot of investors have also made the mistake of you're not actually focusing on what the business is doing, but focusing on the outside parts. So I think that is a common mistake. I think the one probably which is very relevant today or over the last 2 years has been, capital will solve, if not all, most problems. It actually doesn't. Because if the business that you're building is not based on certain fundamentals of creating the right sort of scale up over a period of time. So if you're losing 5 rupees for every rupee that you're making, or 2 rupees for every rupee you're making, and you're almost never going to be able to make that shortfall. No matter how much capital you raise, you're going to keep getting into that value trap. I think that is something we've seen much more so we've seen the result of that in the last 2 years. We saw that happen probably 3 to 4 years back. And capital solves a lot of issues, solves a lot of challenges. It doesn't solve for the business's fundamental purpose of what it's actually building. You may be able to hire the best people, but unless your business and your culture is not quite there, people will leave for something better. And very rarely do you have a winner-take-all or a capital the company that raises the most amount of capital will always do well. That does happen, but if you see more and more of that, it's more an exception. I think what ultimately wins out is focused execution, having a clear objective of what you're trying to do, doing it day in, day out, and surrounding yourself with the right people, whether it's investors, partners, employees, and really staying true to what you're building, keeping in mind the changes that are happening around you. So you can't be completely oblivious, but you can't obsess about that, obsess about your product, obsess about your business, right? So the capital probably is one thing that I've seen more often than not.
Thank you. With that, we open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand and the mic will be passed on to you. Can we pass the mic to the lady in the front?
Hi, this is Neha Gar. I'm running a marketing agency. So as we're talking about from starting up to scaling, so what do you think, like how much marketing plays a role? And if anyone is starting with a lesser budget, so how much they can burn and how much risk they can take?
Paavan, you want to?
So, looking at your question, I think the product you sell, it plays a vital role. If it is about mass you have to address, then marketing plays a role where people needs to know about your product and your services, what different you are doing. And if it is about B2B, say one customer is enough for you if you'll be able to convince, and then 1, 2, 3, these things happen before you start scaling up. So I think you should not pay attention to the marketing more, but the product. Your product speaks a lot when it is about a niche or the B2B one. And if it is about B2C, you can spend very little. There's no budget. I think the less you spend would be good rather than making a big budget in the start. So I hope that helps.